You know the exact feeling. You wake up in the morning and your legs look perfectly normal. But by 5 p.m., you take off your shoes, and there it is, a deep, painful indentation left by your socks, wrapped tightly around your ankle. Your lower legs feel heavy, tight, puffy. The definition around your ankle bone is completely gone, replaced by a swollen cylinder of trapped fluid. You're left wondering why your body feels like a water balloon under immense pressure. If you bring this up to a traditional doctor, they will likely brush it off. They will tell you it's just a sign of getting older, bad genetics, or, most commonly, they will blame it on eating too much salt. The prescribed solution? Squeeze yourself into uncomfortable compression socks, choke down prescription water pills that strip your body of essential electrolytes, or eat bland, salt-free food for the rest of your life. But if you have tried these things, you already know the frustrating truth. The swelling always comes back. Why? Because mainstream advice is treating the symptom, the fluid, while completely ignoring the screaming hormonal signal that is commanding your body to hoard that fluid in the first place. Today, we are going to decode the real reason your body is holding on to this weight. We are going to prove that your persistent swelling is not a gravity problem. It is a metabolic communication failure. The villain behind this is not salt. It is chronic hyperinsulinemia. Right now, high levels of insulin are secretly hijacking your kidneys and paralyzing your lymphatic pumps, locking your body into a dangerous state of sodium hoarding and vascular leakage. It is time to find the leak and turn the pump back on. To understand exactly why your ankles are swelling, we have to look inside the engine room of your metabolism. Right now, your body is experiencing what metabolic researchers call a triad of failure. 3 distinct systems have collapsed under the weight of one single hormone, insulin. When you hear insulin, you probably think of blood sugar. But insulin has a massive, often ignored secondary job. It controls fluid balance. When your metabolism is dysfunctional, your insulin levels run consistently high. This triggers the first phase of the triad, renal locking. Deep inside your kidneys, there are microscopic gates called epithelial sodium channels. High insulin hyperactivates a specific chemical pathway that acts like a rusty padlock on these gates. It physically prevents your kidneys from flushing out sodium. Your sodium gates are locked open 24/7. Phase 2 is vascular erosion. Your blood vessels are lined with a microscopic protective barrier called the endothelial glycocalyx. Think of it like a thick, lush fur coat lining the inside of a pipe. But chronic inflammation and high insulin act like a chemical lawnmower, stripping this protective barrier away. Phase 3 is lymphatic paralysis. Your lymphatic system is supposed to be the body's sump pump, draining excess fluid. But due to mitochondrial dysfunction, essentially dead cellular batteries, the muscles that power this pump stop contracting. Let's visualize what is happening inside your ankle right now. Imagine your blood vessel is a garden hose. That lush inner lining, the glycocalyx, has been worn thin and degraded like old cracked rubber. Because the lining is gone, fluid starts spraying out through thousands of tiny holes. The ground underneath, which is your body tissue, turns into a soggy swamp. Meanwhile, the drain in the corner, your lymphatic pump, is completely clogged with sludge. The battery has died. The water turns stagnant and gray, pooling at the lowest point of gravity, your feet. But here is the incredible thing about your biology. It wants to heal. When we lower the insulin and reduce the oxidative stress, the mechanism reverses. The lush fur coat inside your vessels regrows, sealing up the leaks. The lymphatic battery recharges, and the pump restarts with a strong, rhythmic pulse, sucking that stagnant swamp water down the drain. The tissue dries out, and your skin literally wraps tightly around the ankle bone, restoring definition and relieving that heavy pressure. Now, you might be thinking, but my doctor says my blood sugar is perfectly fine. This is the great trap. We call this the silent decade. Research shows that severe insulin resistance can begin 10 to 20 years before you are ever diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. For a decade, your blood sugar looks perfectly normal on a lab test because your pancreas is pumping out massive amounts of insulin to keep it that way. You are living in a silent accumulation of damage. That sky-high insulin is silently eroding your blood vessels and locking your kidneys into a salt-sensitive state long before a doctor ever flags a disease. The ultimate scientific proof of this mechanism is a well-documented medical phenomenon called insulin edema. When uncontrolled diabetics are first put on high-dose insulin therapy, they often experience sudden, severe fluid retention. Why? Because the sudden surge of insulin chemically inhibits an enzyme called NED4-2. Without this enzyme, the body cannot excrete sodium. The fluid gets trapped. The exact same mechanism is happening to you, just in slow motion. You don't have a gravity problem. You don't have a salt problem. You have a hormone problem. Your kidneys are begging to dump this fluid, but they are being held hostage. So, how did your insulin get this high in the first place? And why do traditional diet methods only make it worse? The answer is hidden in a place you would never expect. Here is where the investigation gets fascinating. Most people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what insulin resistance actually means. You might be thinking, wait, if I am insulin resistant, doesn't that mean my cells are ignoring insulin? That is only half true. And it is the other half that is causing your ankles to swell. Your body is experiencing something called selective insulin sensitivity. Yes, your overworked muscle and fat cells have become resistant to insulin, refusing to let glucose in. But your kidneys are different. Your kidneys remain highly sensitive to insulin. So, while your muscles are ignoring the signal, your kidneys are eagerly obeying insulin's command to hold on to salt. You are physiologically incapable of excreting that fluid because your kidneys are being hormonally overridden. So, what is triggering this metabolic chaos? To find the root cause of the swelling in your ankles, we have to travel all the way up to your digestive tract. This is the hidden connection. The domino effect begins with your gut microbiome. When you eat a modern diet filled with artificial sweeteners, preservatives, and processed fillers, even if it's labeled keto or sugar-free, you damage the delicate balance of bacteria in your gut. This leads to gut dysbiosis and a condition commonly known as leaky gut. When the gut lining becomes permeable, bacterial toxins, specifically lipopolysaccharides or LPs, leak out of your digestive system and into your bloodstream. This triggers a systemic alarm state called metabolic endotoxemia. Now, combine these circulating bacterial toxins with your chronically high insulin levels. Together, they act like that chemical lawnmower we talked about, aggressively stripping away the glycocalyx, the protective barrier of your blood vessels. Once that barrier is breached, the final domino falls. The resulting oxidative stress attacks the tiny muscle cells that power your lymphatic pumps. It forces open specific channels in these cells, known as KATP channels. In simple terms, this shorts out the electrical system. The muscle cells become hyperpolarized, meaning they lose their charge. The pump stops contracting. The fluid has nowhere to go but down. This brings us to the biggest myth in the dietary world, the idea that salt causes high blood pressure and swelling. For decades, the standard medical advice has been to slash your sodium intake. But the science tells a different story. In a healthy, low-insulin state, your kidneys are incredibly efficient at dumping excess sodium. They use a brilliant mechanism called pressure natriuresis. It is basically your body's automatic pressure relief valve. If you eat a salty meal, your kidneys simply filter the excess out in your urine. You only become salt-sensitive when insulin locks the gates. Salt is not the criminal here, it is the victim of a hijacked system. Cutting salt without lowering insulin is like trying to fix a leaky boat by bailing water with a spoon, while ignoring the massive hole in the hull. Lowering your insulin is the only way to fix the root cause. The good news is, you can fix this. You do not need to live in compression socks. You can turn the pump back on, seal the leaks, and watch the fluid drain away. And it starts with a specific protocol. To reverse this damage and drain the trapped fluid, we need a strategic two-step protocol. We must first stop the chemical lawnmower that is destroying your vessel lining, and then we must reboot your lymphatic pump. First, let's look at your plate. We need to immediately eliminate the dirty foods that are masquerading as healthy options. You must stop consuming processed meats and industrial vegetable oils. That daily turkey bacon or cured deli meat might be low-calorie, but it is loaded with nitrates that cause nitrosative stress in your blood vessels. Even worse are the vegetable oils, soybean, canola, and sunflower oil. These are packed with omega-6 linoleic acid. Inside your body, this oil oxidizes, creating toxic byproducts called lipid peroxides. These peroxides are the exact chemical weapons that shred your endothelial glycocalyx. Instead, we need to flood your system with the raw materials required to rebuild that protective barrier. Start eating omega-3 rich foods like wild-caught salmon. and load up on cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. These specific foods provide high amounts of sulfur and glucosamine, the exact molecular building blocks your body needs to regrow that lush, protective fur coat inside your vessels. As the lining thickens, the vascular leaks are sealed. Next, we need to unlock your kidneys, and the most powerful tool to do this is 16-8 intermittent fasting. This means consuming all your food within an 8-hour window and fasting for 16 hours. Here is the beautiful biochemistry of what happens during that 16-hour fasting window. By withholding food, your insulin levels finally plummet. This removes the hormonal brake on your kidneys. A critical enzyme called NED4-2 is reactivated. This enzyme goes to work degrading those locked sodium channels in your kidneys. The gates finally open, triggering a massive release of sodium and water. In the metabolic world, we call this fasting natriuresis, but you will know it as the Whoosh Effect. It is that incredible feeling of suddenly dropping 3 to 5 pounds of pure water weight in a matter of days. But clearing the fluid is not enough. We still have to turn your lymphatic pump back on. Even if your insulin drops, that pump will not restart if the battery is dead. To recharge it, you need the ultimate nutrient heroes, potassium and magnesium. These essential minerals act as the biological spark plugs required to restart the sodium-potassium at-pace pump in your lymphatic muscles. Without them, the pump stays paralyzed. You can also utilize dandelion root. Unlike pharmaceutical water pills that aggressively strip your body of potassium, dandelion root acts as a natural diuretic that actually spares your potassium levels, helping to flush out the swamp water safely. When you combine the regenerative power of omega-3s with the insulin-lowering effects of intermittent fasting and the cellular spark of potassium, your biology transforms. The leaks seal up. The pump roars back to life. The heavy, stagnant swamp water drains away, and your skin shrink wraps back around your ankle, restoring the sculpted definition you thought was gone forever. Now that we have unclogged your lymphatic drain and fixed the swelling, we need to look at what is happening to your energy levels. You might be doing everything right with your diet, but there is an invisible force in your home that is sabotaging your metabolism at night. Next, we are going to discuss how blue light might be secretly raising your blood sugar and driving insulin resistance, even while you sleep.